Yo guys, just gonna give you my first thoughts on Dune Spice Wars, which I played for the second time yesterday. Dune Spice Wars is an RTS / 4X hybrid. RTS stands for real-time strategy. 4X stands for a turn-based strategy game with Explorer, Expand, Exploit, Exterminate. These are two of my favorite genres, so I had pretty high expectations. I played Dune Spice Wars at TwitchCon about 2 years ago in Amsterdam. They had a stand there, the developers. I don't know their name, but I know they're French, and that they've also made Northgard. I love these kind of genres. I just watched Dune 2, so I was like, hey, I should try this game. Here are my first impressions. I played it for 2 hours yesterday, and the 2 hours became like 6 hours. So I didn't want to play anything else anymore. I ended up picking House Harkonnen. And yeah, so the concept is, it's a real-time strategy game, but you can pause. And that is similar to Total War Warhammer 2 and Total War Warhammer 3. Those are two games I would compare it the most to. And then it's, of course, like Northgard, which is another game by the same developer. So it's an RTS, you can pause. And for the rest, it feels very much like a 4X game, like Civilization 6, Humankind, Age of Wonders, but with a lot of its own twists. Overall, I feel like the polish was good. The game spent a couple of years in early access. It just released officially September last year, 2023, and I think it's actually at least on discount right now during the making of this video. I liked it a lot, right? For some people, 4X games can feel a little intimidating or complicated to begin with when you're starting out. That is exactly what I like in a game, when it's not overly complicated and just stress-inducing and confusing and poorly explained. I like a game that self-explains via good UI, and Dune Spice Wars does that. I'm able to, without tutorial, without campaign, with minimal backseating from chat, able to figure out how most things work inside the game. I think it would have been nice if it had an in-game encyclopedia like Civilization has, like Age of Wonders Planetfall has. That's super useful, it goes a long way. And I couldn't find an in-game encyclopedia while playing. But the concept of the game is simple as we kind of go further in the gameplay. You start with your capital city that you can see there, Carthage, or Carthage. And then you get a bunch of scouts, and you can send those scouts either to auto-explore or to go in directions, and they just start kind of spinning new provinces, and then they can discover all kinds of secrets there. First, they find out if there's a village, which means it's a buildable, occupiable zone. If there's no village, it's more like a wasteland. And then there's also a couple of secrets per province that can be found that you can interact with, and either you can send spies to it to interact with one option of the resolution of how that quest is going to be dealt with, or you send army units and then you deal with it militarily. Each carries its own reward. So that's one aspect of the game. And then as you're playing the game, more and more different aspects become apparent to you. You're slowly, gradually being introduced to each one. If you don't put too much pressure on yourself, gradually the game shows itself. As long as you're able to pause the game now and then, you can think about things, you can read it. So anytime you feel like you want to experience the RTS aspect of the game, just don't pause. And the stress levels will actually go up as you're trying to figure out how everything works. And I like a bit of tension. But if it becomes too much and you want to slow down and read it, then you just press spacebar, pause, and you try to figure things out. So as the game goes on, you'll be going around with armies. You can interact with enemy AI factions, or you can interact with neutral factions. You can play this game in multiplayer. There's a couple of things I really like about the game. There are many dimensions like espionage, different win conditions. You can fight. You can micro in fights, which is different than many 4X games, actually. You know, sometimes in a 4X game, you will transfer to a kind of like live battle, like in Total War Warhammer 2. In Planetfall, you do turn-based combat. That's a bit like XCOM, and it's a bit like Heroes of Might and Magic. Here, the battle unfurls live on the same world map, and you can actually micro units back and target fire specific units on the enemy faction, which is pretty interesting. You can split to dodge artillery shots, and so on and so forth. And it matters where your units are standing in your province. You don't just move a unit stack from one province to the next province, like you might in some, like either you're here or you're there. No, you've got this province and they can stand anywhere along the perimeter or the center, and it matters. So I think that's pretty cool. One of my favorite features of the game was every now and then a Landsraad council will be called in. Landsraad, Dutch word for the council of the land. And all the great houses will be entering into diplomacy and votes about resolutions and charters. And these can give individual benefits to different houses and also drawbacks. They can give global benefits or only affect an individual faction. A really cool aspect that I think this is diplomacy done pretty well. In Age of Wonders Planetfall, a game I really like, diplomacy against AI is extremely abusable. You can constantly give them information about other AI factions and then receive lots of cosmite, which is a very expensive resource. And you're really getting the better end of the deal all the time. But with the votes, the vote system with the Landsraad Council, at least my first impression, is that it's kind of exciting because you need to put a bunch of votes and influence behind things you care about, but you have no idea. It's like a blind auction. You have no idea if you're like overbidding or underbidding, and it's been pretty hilarious. I can only imagine in multiplayer it could get really downright dirty where you're backstabbing each other about different resolutions. Let's see, combat was pretty fun. Not so sweaty as in Warcraft 3 for sure, but a little interesting and detailed enough for me to find it enjoyable. I like the spy system. The city building system is most comparable to Total War Warhammer 2 and Total War Warhammer 3 in that you click a village and then you can, as you can see here, you can like build a building in this slot, and then you can get another slot and you can build some militia that defend so that you don't need to keep troops at home. And you can even use them sometimes to suppress rebellions in the case of the Harkonnen. All in all, a game that I really just dove into. I didn't know that much about how the game works, but I self-learned as I was playing. I enjoyed the hell out of it. My first impressions are really good. I don't know how the balance is going to be in the late game or how the multiplayer is going to be, but I would definitely play again. And in fact, I am going to play again tonight. So yeah, Dune Spice Wars. A lot of cool twists to it. I enjoyed it. If you're not intimidated by a little bit of learning when you begin, and you like the ability to pause, and the holy combination of RTS and 4X, I think you'll enjoy the game. Apparently on 7 March, which may be before or after you see this, there's going to be an update that will bring further improvements and a hero system, so I'm pretty curious about that. Alright, hope you enjoyed my first thoughts and that you now know a little bit more about Dune Spice Wars than you did before. Cheers, bye.